2 goals, 1 name. Once in a different time, the Marechaussee Hunters stand as the feat of arms in Fontaine's defense, a title worthy of an insignia which displayed large symbols of glory. In its origin, this group of Marechaussee Hunters all started after the fall of Remuria. Cassador was once a Harmost serving under King Remus, vowed to fulfill one purpose in his king's name, which was to pursue the phantoms in the dark, expel them all, and hunt them down. After Remuria's fall, Fontaine became an ungoverned land full of lockfolk and humans alike. Unlike its neighbors, Fontaine was crippled by a curse which doomed its inhabitants to an endless flood and hollow fate. But for all of its horrors, it offered certain opportunities which motivated those who saw the upcoming disaster to seek out ancient secrets or to indulge in absurd obsessions. For all these, it's no longer unreasonable to think that there would be a group which thought to reach the land of the gods and surpass their morals of preventing the flood. After surviving the destruction of Remuria and having been freed from the influence of the Grand Symphony, Cassador hoped to live on and continued the legacy of King Remus, a future of peace and unison, a strength which could hopefully prevent the curse of Fontaine. So as a result, Cassador founded the Marechaussee Hunters together with a few Remurian survivors including Est. Their clear goal back then was to hunt all kinds of monsters using special hunting methods, which even to this day remains unclear of what it meant. As Cassador became known as the Golden Hunter, his founded group remained throughout the years as Fontaine lived on and became governed by a new archon who followed in the footsteps of its predecessor. Eventually, the purpose of the Marechaussee Hunters was reinstated and most members became integrated into Fontaine's society. As a result, they ceased as being these revered hunters and became known as an organization which focused more on investigating criminal activities than actual battle. Most of its members were replaced by Melusines, and they were chosen due to their powerful eyesight of which they can see things that normal humans aren't able to. It could also be a fact that it is because Neuvillette has an admiration for them that he assigned them this role when first appearing in Fontaine. While the Marechaussee Hunters today are a police force organization working under Neuvillette, one particular person, Clorinde, has been a noteworthy individual that can be called as a worthy successor to the Marechaussee Hunters of the past. To know more about the true identity of the Marechaussee Hunters, we have to look at where they were 500 years ago. One notable Marechaussee Hunter during this time was Emmanuel Guillotine and was in charge of the famous siege of Busan. To provide a short backstory, Emmanuel Guillotine was a member of the famed Narcisson-Kreutz Institute and possessed combat skills which were superior to those of normal Marechaussee members, even defeated a notable champion duelist named Marfisa. In the Narcisson-Kreutz Order quest, Emmanuel Guillotine was the father of Alain and Marianne. However, he wasn't their biological father, as they were adopted into the Narcisson-Kreutz Institute after the siege of Busan. Still, Emmanuel took the responsibility of looking after these kids and retired from the organization due to post-traumatic disorder from the siege of Busan, as he witnessed countless people being burned to death. As Emmanuel Guillotine saw the outcome of this battle, he was disappointed with himself, which led to his retirement and trying to become a competent father for both Alain and Marianne. Following in their father's footsteps, Alain and Marianne also joined the Marechaussee Hunters, but shortly after, Alain left and founded the Institute of Natural Philosophy. Thanks to his great skills and high intelligence, Alain was able to create a thinking machine in the form of a dog. This machine was then named Seymour and was sent to Marianne as a gift which could help her in her Marechaussee Hunter duties. In addition to this, Alain built this machine for the purpose of protecting Marianne, and this was showcased during the Narcisson-Kreutz Order quest. The Marechaussee Hunters played a pivotal role in stopping Jakob Ingold's and René de Petrichor within the remains of the dragon Elnis, which caused an explosion in the end, resulting in the formation of the Melusines and the Breacher Primus. While as noted in the books that the Marechaussee Hunters were the one who prevailed in that encounter, René and Jakob still continued with their grand plan, leading to uncertainty within the story. Coming back to the present day, the organization has come down to a police investigation force, and while most of its members are now Melusines, there have been only one who could be called a true successor to the methods of the Marechaussee Hunters of the past. Her name, Clorinde, despite being a champion duelist, showcases a lot of the unique hunting methods, mostly shown from her character teaser. Nervalet even shares how she reminds him of the Marechaussee Hunters of the past, and due to this, Clorinde stands as the most powerful champion duelist. This is further detailed in Clorinde's titles and skill names such as Vanquisher of Phantoms, Vigil of the Long Night, Hunter's Vigil, and Dark Shattering Flame. The story of the Marechaussee Hunters have become unknown in the modern day, as current Fontainians only see them as legends that aren't taken seriously. However, in Clorinde's case, she took them to heart and vowed to restore glory in their memory. In Clorinde's story, she was trained by a Marechaussee hunter named Petronia. Petronia taught Clorinde the numerous techniques and marksmanship of a renowned hunter, which she continues to showcase in her lightning-fast abilities and steady approach whenever dealing with a prey. After years of training, Clorinde has become a hard-willed student in the methods of the Marechaussee Hunters. But it dealt her a crushing blow when Petronia suddenly left and disappeared. In her confusion, she tried to find the whereabouts of her teacher, but in the end, all she found was a black coat-tail cape, which her teacher had never worn before. Still, upon closer inspection, within the cape was the insignia of the Marechaussee Hunters, and from that moment, Clorinde thought that this could have been her final test. A test she had gone through all throughout her years of training. A test that finally resulted in her becoming a successor of a Marechaussee Hunter. So, in the present day, Clorinde continues to wear this cape as well as using the sword Petronia passed on to her, and joins the champion duelists as she fears to lose purpose as a hunter due to the story Petronia once told her. In short, Petronia shared a legend of a Marechaussee hunter losing purpose after all the phantoms have been hunted down and killed. Clorinde saw this and wanted to avoid making the same situation, resulting in her becoming a champion duelist, seeing as how Marechaussee hunters and champion duelists attain a similar goal, to defend Fontaine and hunt down any criminals. In Clorinde Story Quest, another Marechaussee hunter named Florian gets introduced and shares how his father followed this duty until the end despite living under critical conditions. He tells how the Marechaussee hunters of the past weren't respected enough despite continuously defending Fontaine's peace. However, the point of the story comes to a clear when it shows how despite the scrutiny that the Marechaussee hunters were dealing at that time, their names will forever be remembered by their fellow hunters, as it shows themes of camaraderie and duty similar to how unsung heroes are in the real world, such as veterans, teachers, nurses, and other more. Despite their lack of recognition, their strong connection with fulfilling their duties will find a way of being remembered. It's a good story, which also shows more about the Marechaussee Hunters' background. In the last part of Clorinde's Story Quest, she mentioned how the Hunters' weapons would glow whenever a monster was nearby, which instantly reminded me of a Witcher from the game series with the same name. It was cool to imagine that these Marechaussee hunters were in the same scenario as the Witchers, where their numbers used to be a lot but were lessened down to only a few distinct characters. I can say, when I first watched Clorinde's skill showcase, it looked so good to begin with, especially since it was already shown to us during the Archon quest of how Clorinde has this crazy speed which defeated a lot of these mechs, displaying her renowned strength and power. To end it all, as the Marechaussee hunters have become a police force full of Melusines, their skills will continue to be passed throughout the upcoming years, especially with Clorinde as the true successor to the name. With Genshin's story coming to a near conclusion, I hope we'll be able to see Clorinde again, if ever there will be a final struggle for Teyvat. Well, that wraps up the hint of the Marechaussee Hunter's identity. As a fun fact, Marechaussee Hunter takes inspiration from the Royal Marechaussee of France. They were originally a corps of soldiers in the armies of France, initially put in charge of military policing and justice during the Middle Ages, but later became a police organization tasked with watching over the entirety of France. quite similar to what happened with the Marechaussee in Genshin Impact. Now, if you have more to add to this story, feel free to do so in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, my name is KlemenTime. Until the next one, be safe and stay tuned.